Well, welcome now to day one of Vikings Training Camp. Here we're streaming live, Vikings Live on the web. Joining me as well, Ahmad Hicks. I am Dawn Mitchell. And Ahmad, when we started off, the fans don't come till Saturday.
No.
It seems like a normal practice right now, but there's been so many changes in a small amount of time that it is kind of exciting to kick it off this way.
You know, it's just so funny when all the players were walking out of the locker room. I'm looking at my piece of paper with all their names, and I'm like, all right, who is this? Like, we're going back to school. We're taking our test right now, and we have our study guide as we try and get ready for the 2024 season. Like you said, a lot of changes, a lot of new faces coming in. Aaron Jones in particular. I know we'll get to him later in this broadcast, but a really exciting time to be a Minnesota Vikings fan. A lot on the table for this team this upcoming season. Everyone wants to talk about J.J. McCarthy, rightfully so, but I think Sam Darnold is kind of ready to write his name in Vikings history and go down as one of the greats and try and resurrect his career, if you will say.
Yeah, we're going to talk about Sam coming up too, because KO had some interesting perspective on the interesting situation.
Yeah.
Right? It's not your normal situation, and you needed a certain guy like Sam Darnold that could come into this and not only physically be able to go, but to be in the right headspace.
Yeah, and you know, everyone talks about Sam Darnold and how he's failed in so many different spots that he's been in. New York Jets, the Carolina Panthers. He didn't get a chance to do much with the San Francisco 49ers this past season. But I never think that he got an opportunity to kind of flourish the way you would expect a first-round drafted quarterback to do so, because his best wide receiver in the past, Jamison Crowder and Robbie Chosen-Anderson. Let me just be the first to tell you, those aren't two great receivers that you want to build your team around. So
People
I think
like, who?
right, exactly. So I think here with Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, T.J. Hockenson, Josh Oliver, Aaron Jones, I think his life will be a lot easier than it has been in years past.
And we all know, and people that are fans of the NFL over time, years ago, you're only as good as the guys in front of you.
Right.
You know, you might not have anyone to pass to, but you also have to have pass protection.
For sure.
So give this guy a chance
Yeah.
to see what he can do, and give JJ a chance to learn everything that he needs to.
The offensive line, up front, defensive line, those are the two most important positions when you talk about the NFL and having success in the NFL. It starts up front. If you're allowing pressure, if you can't get pressure on the quarterback, then you won't be successful. The Vikings offensive line has kind of been inconsistent the last couple of years. Although the core is still together, all five guys are returning. We may have a new starting rotation with Blake Brandel. He's going to be competing with Ed Ingram and Dalton Reisner. But all these guys are back, including Garrett Bradbury in the middle. Christian Darrisaw just got paid a huge sum of money, $113 million. I think it was how much of it was guaranteed at signing? $48 million.
$48 million,
yeah, something
yeah.
like that. At signing, 77 guaranteed overall. So he's a very happy man.
Cha-ching.
You know, he's going to take a vacation, I'm sure, before the season starts. Get out of here on a PJ, do something. But you know, the success for your quarterback and your running backs stems from the guys up front. This has not been one of the best offensive lines in the NFL, but you would like to think that continuity, being together again for the third season in a row, that maybe they can mesh and do some things that they need to do.
You know, many Vikings fans over the years know it's like death, taxes, and what are we going to do about the offensive line? So I think it's one of those things coming into training camp just started today, and to get someone like Darrisaw wrapped up, and you could see it on his face. And I think it was one of the questions out there, not only, hey, yes, you wanted it done early, but the value. When you feel valued and you get, he just was beaming with pride that, yes, he wanted to stay here, but when a team wants to keep you and invest that kind of money, that can change the way a guy plays.
Yeah, for sure. It lets you know that you're valued, lets you know that they respect you, they care for you, they want to keep you around long term. Those are great things for your mental health in terms of just being able to go out there and play freely, like you said, now that he has this life-changing money behind him. And I know that for the Vikings, they probably wanted to get this deal done now, because as they just went through the Justin Jefferson experience, the longer you wait, the pricier it gets. And I think Christian Darrisaw's value will just continue to go up. I think he will admit last season it probably took a dip just a little bit. He did not have his best season, so he probably left some money on the table. So the Vikings were thinking in their mind, well, if he bounces back and has a phenomenal campaign this year, well, we're going to have to pay him top dollar market value. And you don't necessarily want to do that when you're trying to build the rest of your team like Kwesi Adofo-Mensah is trying to do right now. So I think it's great what what they did, signing Darrisaw, who had 2 years left on his rookie deal. You extend him, get him some fresh money. He's locked up. He's happy. Now your offensive line, especially the quarterback's blind side and the front side, is taken care of, especially with Brian O'Neill having his contract already.
I'm glad you mentioned B.O. because I think KO exactly said that. He said, now you got one guy, and then you got B.O. That's the anchor. And then you throw in Ed Ingram. You got Garrett Bradbury, who's been playing better. And he talked about the physicality of the offensive line. It's not just they're big guys up front anymore.
Right.
They want them to be physically fit. They want them also to be smart, heady, but also versatile. And that is like the key word going into this. Yes, we know who's on the left, who's on the right, but the versatility of the other guys. They mentioned Questenberry. It's going to be interesting to see how that all shakes out.
Yeah, the versatility of any player, any professional athlete is always good because the more jobs you can do, the more job security that you have. When you're limited to just one position, that means that if something goes down and somebody needs help on the other side, you can't help them out. So versatility is always good. And one thing that you alluded to that Coach O'Connell kept bringing up was physicality. And that's something you don't see a lot of in training camps nowadays. Maybe 15, 20 years ago when they had two-a-days, they were outside in the heat. They weren't going indoors to get away from all the tough climates and stuff like that. That was when training camps were real. That's when they prepared you for the season. Nowadays, it's just glorified walkthroughs, pampered 7-on-7s, and then these guys don't play in the preseason. So that's kind of why you see those slow starts in weeks 1, 2, 3, and 4 because they're not in game shape. Their bodies aren't recovering the way they should be because they haven't been hit since last January. So I think right now, Coach O'Connell realizes that. He understands the joint practices, how they can be more physical with the opposing teams. So hopefully you see the Vikings take a more physical but safe approach. You don't want anybody to be injured, but you do want them to ramp up because you don't want the first live contact, first action where you're getting, a helmet thrown into your face week 1 of the season. Like, you want that well ahead of time so you can be acclimated to everything.
Yeah, we are sick and tired of seeing a big name on the offensive line off to the side, getting some workout for an injury, right? We've seen enough of them. So, yes, be healthy, but you also have to get that physicality up.
Sure.
And he mentioned, Kevin O'Connell did, about this, the joint practices that we'll get into a little bit coming up here, but how that really kind of, it's like, was it steel on steel or iron sharpens iron, whatever that expression is. I think that's it. That really gets them going
That's
that
your
way.
first true test of the summer. Being a former athlete, look, you know the ins and outs when you're at practice with these guys. You see them all spring long. You see them all camp long. You know their plays. Like, you don't know what play they're going to run, but you know when so-and-so goes in this formation or he motions over here, there's a high probability that this play is going to happen. So you kind of lose those instincts where you just play and react because you're thinking so much at practice because you know what's going on. So you kind of have an advantage at practice where you go play another team like the Cleveland Browns. You don't know their playbook. You don't know their personnel. You don't know their shifts. So now you're playing actual football and you get to, showcase some of that physicality. And that's what Kevin O'Connell said. There are some players who just don't flourish when the pads are off and you're just doing glorified walkthroughs. Some guys really excel just exerting their dominance and being a physical specimen on the football field. And those guys only flourish when the pads are on and you're in live action, and you don't get live action until game. So Coach O'Connell said he wants to see the physicality ramped up this training camp, and hopefully everyone stays safe.
When it comes to offensive line, one thing I'll be looking at, so yes, we have a lot of the same names, and that consistency is key because they always talk about communication on the O-line is very important in addition to the physicality. But now you got different guys that are behind him at quarterback, right?
Yeah.
So now you have Sam Darnold, and how is his communication going to be? And J.J. McCarthy, and like how many reps does he get? He's not going to get first-team reps,
sure.
but they have to ease him in somehow.
Yeah.
So I know the guys up front, they don't care. Protect the quarterback no matter what. But it's going to be interesting. We've been used to Kirk Cousins back there and how he is with the O-line. So just to see it kind of ramp up in this training camp will be interesting for me. I don't know about you.
Well, yeah, we were just out there paying attention to the quarterbacks because, you guys may not know at home, but when we get access to shoot practice and whatnot, that really means you're getting to shoot a 10-minute stretching period, a 10-minute special teams drill period, and then 10 minutes of individual, and then you're done. So you really don't get to really see what you came to see, or we get to see it, but we don't get to showcase everything to the viewers at home. But just for starters, J.J. McCarthy started out taking number 3 reps. It was
Yep.
Sam Darnold, then it was Nick Mullins, then it was J.J. McCarthy, and then Jaron Hall, kind of the odd man out, the 4th quarterback. Then at one point, J.J. McCarthy and Nick Mullins flip-flopped, so it was J.J. McCarthy being in that 2nd spot, and then for 1 rep, there was a J.J. McCarthy and Sam Darnold flip-flop, where J.J. McCarthy took some snaps from Garrett Bradbury. So the quarterback carousel is already happening here at Vikings camp. I know people are like, want to read all into that. It's really nothing right now. I think they're
No,
just
but
trying
it
to get JJ
is an
familiar.
exercise,
Yeah.
like a
It's
mental
crazy.
exercise
It
to
is.
see, wow, how are they doing this,
Yes.
right? Because you still want the rook to earn something, right? You don't want to disrespect
For
Nick
sure.
Mullins, who's been here.
Right.
Not that the NFL really cares about that, right?
No.
Like the best man gets the job, but they're doing it like with a psychological flair too, I think.
I think it's imperative that they do it this way because, we've seen in the past where, like, the QB1 gets all the reps during training camp and whatnot. Then he gets hurt, and then you throw a quarterback in there that's like Josh Dobbs last year, like, I don't think I ever threw a ball to Justin Jefferson.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And that's like J.J. McCarthy right now.
You don't want
He's
that
only
in the
thrown one
regular
pass
season.
To J.J., to Jets, excuse me. So you don't want that in the regular season, like you just said. And so I think it's imperative that they get him out there to get snaps with the starting center, the number 2 center, and he actually gets a chance to throw to Jordan Addison, to Justin Jefferson. Although he probably won't throw to those two in the preseason,
Right.
you still want him to be familiar with the way they run routes, the way they catch passes, where they like the football. So if he is thrust into action at some point during the regular season, that won't be the first time he's throwing him the football.
Yeah, it's going to be so interesting. And we talked about Christian Darrisaw signing on, and he talked about that consistency, not only with, the change in quarterback, how that's not consistent, that's different, but the guys that he really loves in his room. But we had a chance to talk to Christian before their first practice today, and it's the first time we really had him open up a little bit about what this contract means to him. And he was like a little kid in a candy store, right?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, you're getting the big bucks, but it's also what this team means to him. So this is what Christian had to say, and KO, when we talk about this brand new big paper contract.
This is my childhood dream, and just being able to have the opportunity to play at the highest level, being one of the best in the position, and reaping the fruits of my labor, really what it is, and dream come true. Retire my parents. They both still work, so get that done this year. They don't got to work a day in their life ever again, and it's a dream come true.
Very, very excited about getting Christian Darrisaw signed under a contract extension. One of the best young tackles, in our league, and all he's done is continually get better and better, and the expectation is he's going to continue to do that. Pairing him with B.O. over there on the other side, we feel really good about that tackle combination, and really those guys, have been the heart and soul to go along with some of the guys on our interior for a while now, and they're continuing to build and build. But having those two positions solidified for the future here feels really, really good.
Now, right before Christian Darrisaw came up to the podium, him and Kevin O'Connell gave a warm embrace, a big hug for one another. Coach O'Connell said he was very excited for what was to come, and he raved about Christian Darrisaw's leadership and how he expects him to be more of a vocal leader now that he has that contract. So all smiles here from TCO Performance Center as the Vikings opening up training camp. We have much more coverage here on Vikings Live. I'm Ahmad Hicks. That's Don Richards. And we'll be right back talking about that offense and Aaron Jones on the other side of the break. Stay with us. Welcome back to Vikings Live. So I said I was with Don Richards, but that just tells you like all things are rambling together.
I thought I got married during the soundbite.
Did you not get married?
Well, not
Still
yet.
working on that? All right, clearly we're having fun. It's day one of training camp. The vibes are good right now. And the vibes are good offensively. Everyone's talking about the quarterback position. We've talked about that. But you have to feel good if you're a quarterback with all the weapons surrounding you.
Yes, because it's not only through the air, right? With Jets and then Jordan Addison, whoever the wide receiver 3 is going to be, the running game, Aaron Jones. So it's almost an embarrassment of riches, at least on paper. We all know that chemistry has to combine.
Right.
But I think if you're Sam Darnold and even J.J. McCarthy, you're feeling pretty good.
I mean, everyone's talking about T.J. Hawkinson and his absence. I did see him working out off to the side. He looked good. He's ramping things up. Still won't be taking part in team drills or anything like that. But, I mean, like you said, an embarrassment of riches. If I'm a number 3 receiver on this team or a receiver vying for that number 3 spot, I am feeling extremely good because if you can get on this field, there's a lot of potential that this offense can have in this season. I think Aaron Jones is going to be one of those guys that can help out that offensive line. I kind of was tough on them last season talking about their lack of a run game and how they were inconsistent in that all offseason. Well, what Aaron Jones brings to the table is a guy who has a burst, who can catch the ball out of the backfield. He's not a one-trick pony. He's a jackknife. He can Swiss Army knife, He can do it all. So I think the explosiveness is what you did not see after Dalvin Cook left. Ty Chandler kind of showcased that a little bit, but he still has to be more consistent and an every down back in his pass protection. Aaron Jones is that guy. So I think he's the one that can see a sliver of daylight, and he can take that 3-yard run and make it into a 15 or 20-yard gain. So I think the sky is the limit for this offense and Aaron Jones especially. You
know what I really like, too, when we talked to him during mini camps, too, he was saying, like, listen, even if it's a 3rd down and you go I'm that guy.
Right.
Like, I want to be the one to get that burst up the middle. He can go north and south. He's got that power, but he also has what you said, the speed, the elusiveness. But I also like that he has that experience. He really sees the field in a different way and catching balls out of the backfield, balls in space. I just think that he's going to elevate that whole running back room. But I just love his attitude. His attitude is, you give me the ball, I'm going to run through a brick wall.
For sure.
And I've done it. I've done it when I was with the Packers. Now I'm going to do it for you. And he has that little chip on his shoulder. I really love what he brings to the table here. And you all know that if you get that running game going, it's just going to spread open the field for the passing game. So I think he's taking that upon his shoulders, like, watch what I can do in purple.
And just speaking about Aaron Jones and what he will be able to do for this offense and kind of just expand things, that leads us to that wide receiver 3 competition. Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison. You can pencil those 2 in as your starters. They're both going to get over 50 to 60 targets this season. But who's going to be that guy to spell them when the coverage is shifted towards Jets or shifted towards J8? Who's going to be that next guy to step up? There's a couple of guys here that want that spot. Trent Sherfield, Tristan Jackson, Jalen Naylor, just to name a few. What are you expecting from this wide receiver 3 battle?
People are talking about, when Brandon Powell, when he really stepped up and kind of took the brass ring for a little bit. You need a guy that is versatile, that a guy that knows that they're going to use Jets now. They're going to use Jets, and they're going to use Jordan in different ways. So that wide receiver 3 really has to be versatile in how they're used and be ready to do things, whether it's a slant, whatever you're called upon to do, and know that if they're going to use them as a decoy, you know that they're not going to use those 2 mostly as decoys. You might have to be one.
Right.
You have to become a threat in a certain way. So I know that that's what Kevin O'Connell was talking about. We need versatility. We need guys that can step up. I really like to see the dark horse kind of emerge there, because you never know what can happen in a season, and you need that depth.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's going to be a very interesting position battle all camp long. I think we won't really get to know more until maybe that 2nd or 3rd preseason game. I expect Brandon Powell to be taking a lot of reps. Tristan Jackson, Jalen Naylor. If he can stay healthy, he dealt with a lot of hamstring issues, and what they say is he has remarkable speed if he can stay on the field. So Kevin O'Connell talked about this position battle and how exciting it will be throughout training camp. Check out what else he had to say about this battle.
Yeah, I think it's going to be competitive for sure. As many good things as Brandon Powell did for us last year, maybe without a lot of the time on task repetition in training camp, BP's able to take the experience that he had in LA in a similar offense and come in and apply not only the scheme but the physicality and the want to, in the run game to try to play his role when we're in 11 personnel. I think you're going to see some of those young players from the practice squad. We really liked that group a year ago, and now we're going to see kind of who can take that next step when called upon.
When called upon, I think, is the key word there, right? Because you know KO likes to really swap things up. Not really trick plays, but always complicated. You never know what they're going to throw at you, kind of like on the other side, with the defense. So I'm really interested to see if there's someone that emerges, if it's a Naylor or if it's a Brandon Powell or Tristan Jackson even has really been coming on.
Love Brandon Powell. He just does not have that size that you want. Justin
Exactly.
Jefferson's not the biggest, neither is Jordan Addison. So you want a bigger body receiver out there. But whoever the Vikings throw out there into that position, I'm sure they'll be ready, but I would not rule out them going out and going to get a wide receiver 3 to bring into this team, into this organization. I just have a hunch that maybe they won't have – they'll get through camp and realize that they need a little bit more NFL
more juice, maybe?
More playing experience, a guy who's been under the fire, been under the live bullets and whatnot. So I would not rule that out. But I'm not Adam Schefter. I'm not Tom Pelissero. So I don't have those inside sources. I'm working on it, though. But I would not rule that out. That's something that I think we need to keep our eyes on.
And especially when you mention T.J. Hockenson, when you have a guy that depth. I know there's Josh Oliver, Johnny Munt. When you talk about other tight ends, you need a big guy that can be a big target in the end zone.
Yeah.
So if you don't have that, do you go out and get it in a wide receiver?
Oh, well, you know what? That's to be determined. I know
Right.
N'Keal Harry, he's a bigger body guy. He's a former receiver who kind of transitioned to the tight end position
guy
role.
to
So
look for.
hopefully he can be a guy to assume some of that void that T.J. Hockenson left behind or will leave behind the first couple of weeks. But it's an exciting time. It's day one. Our brains are flowing right now about the endless possibilities that this
Get that
offense can have
competition going.
this upcoming season, and that's great to hear. And we'll continue this coverage because we have more Vikings coverage continuing. The team's practicing right now. The players will come off the field around 4:30. We'll hear from them later on at 5 and 6. But before we let you go, we have something else coming up on the other side of the break. So stick around. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to Vikings Training Camp Live. I'm Dawn Mitchell along with Ahmad Hicks. Now, Ahmad, we always talk about when it comes to this training camp, the new thing that has emerged the past few years are these joint practices, especially where you take away a preseason game. The guys are saying they like this more. They get more out of it, especially the coaching staff. Cleveland Browns this year and on the road, so not even here, the guys can bond a little bit. But when it comes to the work, they really get a lot out of it because they can really get into their plays and see what personnel works what the best. What do you like as a not only a broadcaster but an NFL fan when it comes to these joint practices? putting you on the
Being
spot.
honest, there's not a lot to love about them because it's just a teaser for what's coming in the season. You know what I'm saying?
Interesting.
Like, the guys don't go to the ground. You know, it's just like touch off. And so it's like, what I like is you get to see how the offensive passing game is going to look, because the run game never looks good. A guy may burst for 8 yards and then he's running into a group
Because they don't want to get hurt.
Exactly. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I love the interior line to see their bursts, what they do, the defensive line, things like that. That's good to see in these joint practices because they really get to work. And then the receivers and defensive backs, I think that's the cream of the crop when you're talking about joint practices. And it's just a chance for that adrenaline to get going, because when you're coming out here practicing against your brothers and your teammates, you kind of have a soft side for them. Like, you want to kill them every time you're in front of them, as Jordan Addison would say, but you kind of also want to take it easy on them because that's your guy, whereas you're going to take on the Cleveland Browns, you're like, I am going to destroy him every time I face him. So that's what I look forward to, just that heightened level of competition.
Yeah, I really like the fact that you get to see some of the schemes. Well, and they say by that time that they have the joint practices, they're sick of seeing each other, right? And then to see what kind of defensive schemes work against their offense, then you see like them kind of bursting with pride, but they don't want to give away too much.
Right.
So it is a watered down version. Now, Kevin O'Connell loves training camp. He's like a kid in a candy store, but he says he even takes it up a notch when it comes to these joint practices. And this is what he had to say about going to Cleveland.
This was really the best option for us this year. We'll make sure we maximize, that Raider week of preparation, which still in my mind is training camp, but then that preseason game as well, knowing that there could be some real valuable repetitions for some guys, and also having our team ready for the very important, as you guys know, my feelings on the joint practices. I'm a big fan of them, and we've learned a lot over the last 2 years about our team during those 2 or 3 days each year we've gotten a chance to do them.
Well, Kevin O'Connell loves them. Ahmad Hicks, not so much. So you can see the coach really kind of digs in. So as you see right here, the first practice with pads in July on the 29th, and that's when things get ramped up a bit.
Yeah.
And that's when Ahmad starts smiling a little bit more.
A lot more, yes.
And then the night practice, do you like that at all?
Yes, I like the night practice. A little bit more competitive, some fun stuff for fans to get a glimpse of the season, but I love the games. So I'm all for 8-10, 8-14 when they play the Raiders, when they play the Cleveland, go to practice with the Cleveland Browns. Those are things I'm excited about. Real football, Don. That's what I want to see. We've done all the...
Did you call preseason real football?
Kind of.
You kind of did.
For the backups, it is real football.
Well, that's
for
true.
J.J.
That's
McCarthy,
true.
that's real football.
And it's under the lights.
Yes.
Get these kids ready.
You know what I'm saying?
Oh, interesting. Well, I know we only touched on offense because tomorrow Ahmad and I will be talking some defense. So we have a lot to get to. This is day one of training camp, Vikings Training Camp Live. We'll see you back here again tomorrow at 3. For Ahmad, I'm Dawn. We'll see you then.